one of Boston's great cultural amenities is the public garden. And one reason the public garden remains such a vital piece of Boston is because of people like Henry Lee. And Henry Lee is with us today. Good morning, Henry.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. So, what can you tell us about the public garden?
Well, I could tell you a lot more than you'd care to hear, I suspect. But one thing people sometimes forget, that where we're standing at the moment, in the center of the garden, was once a marshland. Indeed, you could have been swimming here. And right to our right was the site where the British soldiers got in their boats and rowed across the river on their way to Lexington and Concord. Remember, one if by land, two if by sea. And this, the public garden, was the sea. So it was just a marshland. And then there was an effort to create some mills up in Massachusetts Avenue area. And so they built what is called the Mill Dam, which today is an extension of Beacon Street from Charles. And a dam across which blocked out all what is now the Back Bay and made it a mud bog. And this was a terrible problem, and many people wanted to build housing here, and there was a great struggle all through the middle of the 19th century. But finally, the advocates of park, extension of the common, won out, and this land was reclaimed. And a wonderful group of private people, led by a man named Horace Gray, established here a botanical garden. In 1838, it was first called the Public Garden. And the theme, I would say, about this park is it has been a struggle of the public trying to keep it. It was a struggle at the outset, it's been a struggle ever since. But the result has been quite magnificent. And throughout the 19th century, it had some magnificent gardeners here. They were able to finally to plant trees and laid out the garden much as you see it today. And this is a Victorian garden, not intentionally as a copy. It is what it always has been, and so that if somebody would come back here from 1880 and walk about the garden, they'd know it very well.
And it is open 24 hours a day, every day of the year.
Well, one of the most extraordinary things is the care of this place. Yes, now and then there's vandalism. Now and then something happens here that you wish wouldn't happen. But by and large, if you look around this place and see how preserved it is, and when you think it has no policing to speak of, it is open 24 hours a day to the public. It's an extraordinarily well-kept and beautified place.
Now, you mentioned that it's often under attack for other interests. In the late 1960s, early 1970s, when the city was in a tough shape, there was a proposal to build a big complex just south of the public garden at
Yes.
Park Plaza.
Well, when I say in the 19th century what a magnificent park this was, somewhere along the line, maybe in the 1930s, it began to decline. Not only this park, but every park in the city of Boston. So when you got into the 50s and 60s, this place was in terrible condition. So bad that one wondered whether it could be reclaimed. An estimate at the time was $8 million to just restore it, not even to make it better in any respect. So this led to the formation of another civic group, a long line of such groups, to see what they could do to save the park. And this included the Commonwealth Avenue Mall and the Boston Common, because the three are linked together. And problem one was this terrible deterioration. Problem two was the enormous amount of vandalism and misuse. 3 statues were stolen in the 70s. 2 light poles were stolen. And a third problem, of course, was simply the enormous amount of litter all over the place. But our fourth one, which turned out to be the most pressing, was the proposal to call Park Plaza, which was an urban renewal project in Park Square and on down Boylston Street by the Common, which would have erected 2 or 3 600-foot high buildings over here on Boylston Street, which have overshadowed the whole garden and created wind gusts of 60 miles an hour on many days. This would have been absolutely destructive. And you can imagine the small group of do-gooders, as we were, 40 strong with $200 in the bank, deciding they had to fight a project that was supported by the governor, the mayor, the business community, and the unions. It was a struggle that we didn't anticipate we'd probably win, but we got a lot of support, a lot of cohorts, and other civic groups around the city, and all together, after many years of struggle, we were able to defeat this project and to secure legislation to protect the parks from the shadow of very high buildings. It also began environmental impact studies, which didn't exist before that time. And it's routine now with any big project that you have a study of wind and shadow and scale and traffic and the like. They just go with it. But in 1971,
it didn't exist.
It was
yeah.
anybody's game. So, but I have to say, it did a lot for this park. This park was being run down, and the publicity that was given on our fight against Park Plaza enabled us to secure funds to begin the rehabilitation of the garden.
Now, you had an encounter with Mayor White during this whole struggle. Mayor White, very powerful, popular figure, and this was one of his signature achievements, building Park Plaza.
He supported Mortimer Zuckerman and his plans because he thought this was going to be good for the city.
Yes.
We never opposed a renewal of the Park Square area. We just thought it should be done on a more moderate and sensible level. And but I have to say that when we were just a little fledgling organization and we were in this park, we were putting in a small tree, and Mayor White came by, and he turned to me and he said, I think what you're doing here in the garden is fine, but we're going to fight you over there in Park Plaza. I went home so happy. He said fight. He thought we were somebody worth contending with. And I have to say that many years later, he said to me, you people were right. And that wasn't easy for Kevin White to say. But he did say it, and he turned out to be a very good friend of the parks.
Well, thank you, Henry, for what you've done and for spending a few minutes with us. It's great to see you.
Great pleasure.